Hey there, origami fans, and welcome to Fold Space Origami Studio. The Year of the Rabbit is upon us, and to celebrate the Chinese New Year, I'm going to demonstrate how to fold this delightful rabbit model that was designed by Vicente Palacios. This model appears in Vicente's book, Beginning Origami, and as you can see, it even made it onto the front cover. This book was first published in Spain in 2005 and was later republished by Dover Publications here in the United States in 2008. This book has been on my shelf for quite some time, and as you can see, it's been very well loved. And I cannot recommend this book enough for those of you who are first getting into origami. And I also recommend this book to origami teachers, especially those who are working with audiences who might be young and or relatively new to the art form. This book sports 85 models, and you can typically find it for less than $10, both new and used. So I highly recommend it. It's a great value. Now, I absolutely love this model, both because it's relatively easy to fold, while also possessing a lot of the right shapes and proportions to really evoke the essence of a rabbit. In particular, I love this little color change that we get inside the ears. And not only that, but you can vary some of the folds to achieve different proportions and positions of the rabbit. So there's a lot of variability at hand. Here you can see the relative proportion of a finished rabbit from the paper it was folded from, and in this case, these rabbits were folded from squares that were 15 centimeters on each edge, or around 6 inches. For this video, I'm going to use a 24 centimeter square that is a sort of pinkish red on one side and white on the other side. And I'm going to be folding a rabbit that has white fur and red on the inside of its ears. So to do that, we're going to start with the colored side facing up, and we will begin with a book fold. So I'm going to take the bottom edge, fold it up to the top edge, line everything up, hold before I fold, slide down the middle, and finish that crease going all the way out to both sides. Next, we will take our book fold that we've just created, and we will open it up, and we will now create what is commonly referred to as a cupboard fold. So we're going to take the two edges that run parallel to the central crease, and we're going to bring those edges in to meet in the middle. So start with one cupboard door, line that up, make a fold, and then repeat on this side, bringing this edge to the center line. And now we have our cupboard fold. Next, I'm going to flip the paper over to the opposite side, and you will notice we have a crease line running up and down the center of the paper. And we're going to take each of the four corners of this rectangle, and we're going to bring each up so that half of this bottom horizontal edge comes up to meet the vertical crease line in the middle of the paper. So we'll do that one corner at a time and repeat on the other three. And we'll rotate the paper so that I can now do the same with these two corners. There. Those four corners are pre-creases for our next step. So let's unfold those triangle flaps that we just created, and then let's flip the paper back over to the opposite side. And if you'd like, you can even open up those cupboard doors so that you can see the crease lines that we've created. And in each corner, we've created this V shape. Okay, and these are the creases that we are going to use for the next step. Next, using the creases from the previous step, we are going to inside reverse fold all 4 corners. So one way of describing that is that we are going to reverse one of these crease segments inside the cupboard door so that this corner can essentially go inside and underneath that cupboard door. So if I take my finger and I'm going to be kind of pushing this in, I want to be sure to open the door just enough so that I can start to push that corner in. And what's going to happen here is I'm going to reverse this crease segment here in the back. And I won't be making any new creases. I just want to try and find the crease that's already in the paper. And as you can see now, that corner is collapsing inside that cupboard door. We can now repeat that step on the other 3 corners. So I'll take this corner here, and sometimes it helps to just kind of hold the door shut down here while also letting it open up a little bit here at the top so that you can push that edge in. Another thing that will happen too is that this crease here, this mountain crease segment, will reverse into a valley crease as we push it inside the model. So we'll push that in, give it a good squeeze, and there you have it. We can now repeat that on the bottom 2 corners. So let me rotate the paper and start on the left this side. See how I just slightly open the door while holding it shut here so that I can push this segment in, kind of reverse that central crease while also reversing this crease here in the back, and then letting it collapse flat. And the last corner, once again, push that in, reverse that crease here in the back and the central crease, and it should all more or less fall into place. And now we are starting to get the base for our rabbit. Next, let's flatten that model and flip it back over to the back side now so that we're looking at this irregular hexagon. And next, we're going to take this bottom corner, and I want to point out that there is a natural hinge formed between this point and this point. So it makes a horizontal line connecting those 2. So what we're going to do is take that bottom point, but that top layer only. We're going to be sure to leave these other 2 flaps down on the table. And using 2 hands, I'm going to kind of gently roll that flap up and find the natural hinge. The paper just kind of knows what to do. If we push that upwards and then eventually flatten it, we can finish that crease here in the middle, and this is the result. And we want to do the same with the opposite corner. So I generally like to fold up and away from myself. So I'm going to spin the model around like so. And once again, while kind of pressing the model down, I'm going to use my thumbs to lift up this bottom point. Just taking that one flap, and I'm going to set it down flat. And there you go. Now, what we have created is essentially the same as what is known as a pig base. But of course, we're folding rabbits. But funny enough, when it comes to the compatibility of people who were born in the year of the rabbit, they tend to get along well with people who were born in the year of the pig. And that also goes for the year of the dog and the year of the sheep. Fun fact. Okay, so we've got our pig base. And we're going to look here at the side that has this big slit running down the middle. So those 2 little square flaps that we made are on the back of the model. And down here I want to focus on these 2 points. And what we're going to do next is create 2 angle bisectors. And those angle bisectors are going to occur here and here. So we're going to be making creases that come up about here and here. So to do that, we're going to align this slanted edge here at the bottom with the line in the middle. So I'm going to kind of rotate the paper a little bit, but you can see how I take that bottom edge and I'm going to bring it up to meet in the middle. Now, it's okay if this edge does not perfectly meet in the middle, and in fact, I usually leave a little bit of a gap. So it's not super important, but that's what that step will look like. And then we want to repeat the same thing on this side. To make our second angle bisector, not worrying too much about making perfect points. And if you couldn't tell already, these two angle bisectors that we just made, I have them up here at the top now, these are going to become the ears of our rabbit. And if you flip the paper over, you can also see that this part here will become the face of the rabbit. All right? So for the next step, we're going to look at this side here where we just made the two angle bisectors, and there are some areas I'd like to point out. First of all, I want to draw your attention to this spot right here where all of these different lines sort of meet. I also want to draw a couple more angle bisectors, which are here and here. So it's bisecting this line and this line. Okay? For this next step, we are going to create another inside reverse fold. And it can be a little tricky at first, but once you get the hang of it, it gets a lot easier. And there's a few things that are going to happen. First of all, from this point down to the end of the model, or really down to about here, we're going to form a mountain fold. But we will also be creating valley creases as angle bisectors that will meet at this point here. So if I use my thumbs to kind of push that point in while using my fingers underneath to kind of lift this up, then I can start to kind of bend the model in half. Now it's really important that while we're doing this, that on this side, we want to allow this flap to swing freely. So here's what that's going to look like. I'm going to use my thumbs to kind of pull this, and then my fingers to pull this flap up while pushing this down and sort of bending this down and in half. All the while making sure that this point sticks out freely. And remember those angle bisectors I pointed out? We basically want two valley creases to kind of connect at that vertex that I also pointed out. And once we start to kind of bend the model in half, we can start to kind of pinch the rest of the body flat. And notice I still haven't flattened this part of the model. The reason being is that there is a lot of variability that we can use. Well, maybe not a lot, but a certain amount of variability that can change the sort of relative position of the rabbit. So I want to point out that, like here in my left hand, I have a rabbit that's sitting a little bit more upright. And in this one, I have a rabbit, this hand I have a rabbit that's hunched down. It's a little bit closer to the ground. And I'm going to show you how to make each of those variations. So I'm going to start with the rabbit that is kind of hunched down on the ground. So this one here, or this one. So when I'm here squeezing the model in half and I'm getting ready to flatten the front part of the model, notice how this can sit in a number of different positions, right? And this is where we get the different angles of the rabbit's head relative to its body. Now, to get a rabbit that's kind of hunched down to the ground, we do have some handy landmarks. And if we look here, there is a point right here where this flap meets this edge. if you can roughly get this point to meet this line here, I find that works out pretty well. So again, you can kind of adjust this in a number of different ways. And if you just kind of aim the end of this line with this edge here, that tends to work pretty well. So then you can kind of flatten the rest of the model. Okay, you can kind of get a look at what the result looks like. Now, I've already got another sheet up to this same step, so I can show you the positioning for the rabbits a bit more upright. So if you want to watch me do that again, I'm going to kind of push that up while I kind of bend this down, get it started. Now here, this nose is starting to point up a little bit, so I'm going to get underneath it. Because from the front of the rabbit, I'm going to also have a mountain crease going down the ridge of its face. And if you want a rabbit that's a little bit more upright sitting, here's the position that we were in for the last version. If you kind of pull this up, or in other words, the body kind of comes down a little bit, like so. And you don't want to go too far. Like, I would not go all the way so that your crease will meet the end of this edge here. But if you get kind of close to that, that works pretty well. You can kind of see a slight difference here. And I'll hold them both up to the camera for you to see. So here's the one I just did. And then here's the other one. So you can see that, like if you look at the triangles, like this triangle here on this one is a lot longer than this triangle here. And I know the light is kind of washing out the white paper, so hopefully you can see that okay. But the point is that you can experiment and just try different things. And it's really up to you to kind of get a feel for what the different angles will achieve. So I'm going to keep folding here with this rabbit, the more hunched down rabbit. And next we have to do another inside reverse fold. And once again, there's some variability here as far as like the angle and the position for this fold. But what we're going to do is create another inside reverse fold where we take this end of the rabbit and basically kind of turn it inside so that the flap goes in, and these points, these 2 points here actually become the feet sticking out the front. So to do that, I'm going to kind of position the paper like so. And I wanted to point out we've got corners here and here. And we're going to be making kind of a V shape once again. And watch how I do this. I'm going to kind of bend the paper down. Now, I don't want to make a crease that's totally horizontal. I'm not just folding this back to make a horizontal crease. What I'm doing is I'm kind of pushing the center in a little bit so it makes that sort of upside down V. And we are reversing a little bit of this crease segment here to become a valley. And I'm going to kind of push that in. And you can see how the feet then come out towards the front. And depending on how much paper you kind of tuck underneath the rabbit, the more paper you tuck, the bigger the feet will be. So if I were to tuck like a whole lot of that paper, you can kind of see that the feet end up kind of large. Now, I personally prefer slightly smaller feet on this rabbit. So what I'll do is I'll kind of move that inside reverse fold back down. So we're still getting this sort of V shape, which is kind of upside down now. And it doesn't really matter where it lands here, so it can actually land a little bit to this side of those corners. But I'm going to kind of push that in there and kind of see what it looks like before I commit. And once I'm satisfied, I'll go ahead and flatten the model. Now, don't worry too much about achieving a totally straight edge down here at the bottom, because we're going to take care of these flaps down here in the back in a second. But just kind of pick a spot, give it a good pinch, And believe it or not, we are almost finished with this rabbit. For this other one, I'll just go ahead and do this one, the rabbit that's sitting more upright. Let's try that again. I'm going to kind of take a little bit of the paper. I'm going to kind of push it underneath and reverse. Now, this one, I have a feeling this one, the feet are going to look a little bit bigger. And I do want the feet to be kind of down here. Yeah, so see, I get like this very different look depending on the angle of this fold. So please play around with it, see what you can come up with, and try different positions. Okay, so there's the difference between the two. Okay, and we're almost finished. Next, we are going to round out the rear end of the rabbit. And so I'm just going to kind of grab a chunk of this paper, and again, this is to taste. I'm just going to fold some of that paper underneath and inside the model. And wherever you fold that, you're basically just kind of drawing a line to shape that part of the rabbit. So just kind of pick something that feels right, and tuck that underneath, give it a good squeeze. And for the other side, in order to make it align with the first fold that you did for this step, I'm just going to kind of wrap it around the outside of that first crease that we made for this step. And once I have the crease in place, I can unfold it, open the rabbit up a little bit, and then push that flap on the inside. And you'll see that gives us a nice alignment here in the back. So I'll do the same for this one. I'm going to draw a line with the crease that basically connects this part here with something around up here. So I'm just going to kind of fold that in. And then the other side, I'm just going to wrap it around so that it lines up, unfold, and then push it in. And there we go. So now the body is complete. And to finish up the head, first, we're going to take a section of the nose, and I'm going to use my thumb like this. I'm going to kind of pinch, and I'm going to push that tip of the nose inside the model. And I'm just kind of doing this randomly. I'm kind of taking a guess. But I got to say, you really start to get a nice bunny shape for the head. It really does look like the head of a bunny, which I think is really cool. But this is yet another step where you have some room for variability, where you can come up with kind of different shapes and sizes for the rabbit's nose and snout, depending on how far you fold underneath and at what angle you make that fold. But you can see there I tucked that point inside, and now I'm giving it a good squeeze. And look at that. And finally, perhaps the most important step, which really brings this model to life, is the shaping of the ears. And to do that, if we peel this one layer out where we can see the color change, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of pinch the head of the rabbit to try to keep those flaps together. And then as I open that flap, I'm going to kind of stick my thumb inside the model and kind of give it a little bend. Now, we don't have to flatten anything, but basically you're just kind of opening up that part of the paper so that the inside of the ear shows. And of course, we'll do the same on the other side. Find that color change, and while pinching the head, so you can kind of control where that crease happens, just kind of push your thumb or finger in there and kind of open it up a bit, and there you go. And I'll go ahead and I'll do the other more upright rabbit. This time I'll use my finger, my pointer finger instead of my thumb, to kind of just push that in there. Just kind of give it a little squeeze, kind of open that out. Look at that. Perfect little rabbit ear. Funny enough, this is not a technical rabbit ear in origami lingo, but it does create the ear of a rabbit. So, and there you go. 2 different rabbits, 2 of many different rabbits that you can fold to celebrate the Lunar New Year. Thank you so much for folding with me today, and please be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And I wish you a very prosperous and fortunate new Lunar Year.